live stream. Probably I scared everyone. So there was another member who was here, left off. Okay. So welcome everyone to the another community call for ArchiDAO. With me is Liam. We are going to go through the same process as last week, and hopefully more people will join. There are about 7 or 8 people that said they would join for today's call. So you might get, we might get more people in. Hi, Sri.
Hi, Theo.
Give me a second. So if during the call you have more questions, just unmute yourself. Feel free to interrupt me. There is no formalities into this at all. We're just going to go through the main event and do a mini presentation so people can understand where we are. So we're doing this more of an engagement month, mainly to be able to allow people to be a little bit more active on the DAO, but also present opportunities in terms of collaboration projects we are working on, and opportunities for people to step up and take an active role. So part of today's presentation is going to be discussing the Harmony elections, but also the ArchiDAO white paper engagement and feedback. And I have a couple of more projects that were mentioned in the Discord, and we have them working. We will probably have to finish early today, so before 8 o'clock UK, because there is another call starting right after that for the US. In terms of the elections, right, the news is that we have essentially been pre-approved for receiving funding on the Harmony Layer 2. And let me actually take you to that post so you can actually take a look. And we can discuss what was the plan with that. Sorry about jumping between browsers, but that's the nature of the beast. We essentially did a proposal on Harmony that looked into receiving funding. And you can find it here. And what this does is it is essentially discussing certain objectives that we're seeing in terms of onboarding, in terms of creating educational material for architects, but also developing the infrastructure for the DAO, and so on and so forth. And then we explain in detail how we will use the funds. The 9 current governors of the Harmony multisig are here, and we have been pre-approved for $50,000 US, right, along with a very simple plan that you see here. And the context of the Harmony elections is that we, and this is also Harmony requirement, need to expand kind of like the core working group of ArchiDAO. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to allow people to have responsibility for divesting those funds. So if you want to stand in for the Harmony multi-signature wallet, please email us on archidao.io at gmail.com, and we will send you a link where you can essentially submit your proposal. I will at the same time, though, share it here as well for those of you that would like to do that anyway without emailing. So on the chat, this is the form you need to submit if you want to send in. Right, the main idea is we're asking basic questions like your name, your email. You need to have an Ethereum address set up, so you need to have an Ethereum wallet. If you don't have an Ethereum wallet, ask us on Discord so we can help you set one up. But it is a requirement. You can't essentially participate in this if you don't have an Ethereum address, because the multi-signature wallet essentially connects with your address on Ethereum. The elections are going to continue until 8th of June. We wanted to announce the candidates this Sunday, but we are delayed because not everybody who said they're going to send in has sent their information, so hopefully this week. And then to register to vote, essentially, please remember to do that. So irrespective if you want to send in to vote, it is very good practice if you give us your information along with your Ethereum address and register as a member of ArchiDAO in the second form. This will allow us essentially to have an overview of who the members are, but also for the future when we schedule things like airdrops for the ArchiDAO NFTs and so forth, we have your address. But also it makes it easier for you to participate in the DAO. So you can click on the link here, right, or scan this address, and you can register until the end of May, right, so until next week. And we will publish the people who are sending in, as I said, Monday, but probably tomorrow, as I'm getting more people to apply. Now, the white paper is on a early stage of a draft, and the first draft we have submitted it to the ECAD conference for peer review. This is kind of litmus test for us to see if our ideas stand the scrutiny of experts. And we are very happy that this has been accepted for presentation fully in the ECAD conference with very favorable comments by the reviewers. The main four people working on this were me, Liz Vela, Simon, and Yuri. And you can, we're going to present a little bit more of the background methodology, systematic review, discussion and smart contracts for ArchiDAO. The white paper essentially goes through key analytical moments in terms of collective authorship, which we think is a key idea when you're talking about collaboration in design. The viable system model by Stanford Bayer, a cybernetician who was crucial in developing it back in the 70s and the 80s, a DAO platform review, and stigmatizing principles. So in terms of collective authorship, what we did is we went into the idea of essentially looking into what experts have done already on analyzing projects that deal with collective authorship. So we looked into papers on Cumicad, about I think 25 or 30 of them, and we identified 8 questions that you can see them here, right, in terms of what was the communication between the members, what was the communication between members and objects, right, was there feedback loop, was it remote collaboration? And I think the most interesting part were questions 7 and 8, or rather parameters 7 and 8 in terms of those projects, where when we tried to categorize them, we saw that a lot of these projects lacked essentially a kind of decentralization in terms of their structure and feedback loop, but also there was lack of a substrate, or it was clear that this was a kind of the most weak point as a medium for collaboration. Next, we looked at the viable system model, right? This is essentially a model that examines how organizations can become as much decentralized as possible, where autonomous work units can make decisions on their own. The VSM has essentially three kind of components. One is the policy, right? So the rules. Second one is the cohesion of an organization, right? So how does the organization work together? And then there is the intelligence, right? So how do we think together? How do we plot strategy using potentially policy and cohesion? And essentially, the VSM is a tool to steer interactions in directions that produce effective structural mechanisms, right? So the idea is that you want to collaborate so that you produce a relationship that has some kind of structure, has some kind of form, and obviously some kind of output, right? So you don't want to just do it without any benefit at all. And the key part is that the kind of vision we're trying to see with ArchiDAO is that it's not a monolithic organization, but you can have smaller teams working on projects where they might share a substrate with other teams, but they're kind of fully autonomous in terms of operations, where they don't need to receive any kind of direction from the top down, essentially, right? And we believe that the VSM is a good example, mainly because it uses cybernetics. So a very, very, very careful understanding of feedback loops and communication loops. It also is tolerant of variety and of different points of view and of different experiences, right? Which we also think is really important in a DAO, and obviously in the modern era as well. But also the idea of recursion, right? So the idea that we can programmatically repeat and learn things as we automate and embed the same action again and again and again in a bottom-up structure. And then the paper looks into DAO, Stack, and Colony as two examples of software stacks that discuss how they make decisions. DAO Stack uses the kind of idea of a holographic consensus to scale governance. And this essentially means that they use a token to bring forward the important proposals out of a really busy stack. Whereas Colony, and the name Colony here comes from ant colony, right? So the kind of idea of ants working together towards a common goal, and using reputation as a value signal to the community. And through all of this, we kind of picked up certain principles that we think are important, right? So one is feedback loops, and at least in the context of blockchains, feedback loops can be encoded and non-encoded, right? So it could be communication like one we're having now, where it's off-chain, but also it could be something that is encoded on-chain. And as long as both types are linked together in second-order feedback, that there exists clear lines of communication and clear boundary conditions under which this happen, and there exists clarity on where and how influence is generated and or accrued, essentially. From that point of view, we also went into defining one of the main vehicles to do this, and this is the ArchiDAO NFT. This is the initial draft that you see on GitHub, and this is a non-fungible token that provides membership and part of the governance rights, but also is a record of the contribution of the member. So we kind of envision that each member of the ArchiDAO will have one NFT that kind of signifies their skills, but also signifies what they want to learn, right? And it kind of signals to the community that there are needs for workshops, for example, but also by signifying what kind of skills you have and what kind of experience you have, we know when we're picking up a project, what kind of skills we have available, and also what kind of skills we might need. And we were kind of designing a kind of governance potential multiplier, but initially probably we will go with the idea that one NFT has one vote. And at least here the governance is going to be for the main governance decisions of the DAO. We will probably be using a staked token for governance decisions on projects in a decentralized fashion. So from that point of view, you might get, so this is what's different here, right? You get a project and you might vote for, say, governance of the DAO with your NFT, but on the project, you're probably going to need to vote not with your NFT, but with another token that you need to stake, and this kind of locks your devotion to the project, essentially. We have gone through various analysis in terms of what is the workflow for people signing up for this project, right, or about joining, essentially, the organization, and then how do we start to go into the idea that these guys, the members, are producing and participating in particular projects. And we have also the kind of idea that you are analyzing this from the point of view of the member, right? We were deciding that, you know, various activities in terms of learning or practicing or signing up for a role will be earning essentially a token, and probably a governance token. So we need to see how these are interchangeable, for example. So, you know, anything on the presentation is not, it's still on a concept level, right? We're still working out on what the mechanics are, and would love to have everybody's feedback. You'll see a really simple kind of diagram here where we have two projects, two contracts essentially in terms of the staking and in terms of the project. And you need to essentially stake tokens to receive the governance token to be able to make decisions on the project, right? This doesn't affect your governance rights on the full DAO level. So we're building the infrastructure and writing the white paper, right? And you can email us to join the development guild or join the white paper efforts. And as I said, right, you can also comment on the forum as I've posted the link there. Let me try and take this off so you can go on the chat. Or directly on the white paper on Google Docs right here. The good news is that the ArchiDAO NFT has also been accepted as in a separate peer-reviewed conference, and this is the part we're going to be working on now in the next 2 weeks to kind of bring it into reality. I was working on it today, and hopefully by next week we'll have something much more concrete to report. We're only 3 people in, so I'll just stop. If anybody has any more questions, right, email us on archidao.io, and I'll just stop the recording, but keep the streaming going. And I guess we can have a chat, Liam, if you're still on.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I actually stayed stationary rather than kind of move, so that I was able to kind of stay attentive and see what you're saying.
Yep. So you know, it's almost the same as last week, essentially, right? So the good news is that we're working on the ArchiDAO NFT. The other thing I wanted to announce just before we go back to the discussion we were having before, is let me try and find it.
Hello.
We have had a member suggest we go for a NASA competition, and where is it? In classy fashion, I'm lost on Discord. So we discussed it, and we're going to go for it. Here you go. So this was suggested. Let me present this here. So NASA has essentially a challenge to design a metaverse using Unreal 5 engine, which is also the engine we wanted to use for a lot of our metaverse projects. Initially, this was suggested. Let me try and get my LinkedIn so I'll get his name correctly. Never mind. But I'll find it at some point. So we decided to go for it. So if you're watching this streaming and you want to join the team that is going to do the Metaverse Challenge for NASA, go to the Metaverse channel and talk to Yuri, who is going to be coordinating this. Yeah, bring any ideas you might have on how we can do that. Liam is back. Sri, any comments, any announcements you wanted to make?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Liam, back online.
Yeah, no, sorry, I think I got rugged. I'm bouncing out in and out of signal.
Yep, that's fine.
But no, I actually saw that the Mars Metaverse stuff on a separate Web3 Discord channel that I'm on. Yep. And it looks interesting, right? But one of the things I kind of mentioned at the top of the call is it's kind of to do with like direction of brief, right? Because when you're considering architecture and DAOs and metaverse design and in real life bricks and mortar, there's so many different ways that you can go. And one of the things that kind of, certainly for me as a primary aim in the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years, is centered around how do you have DAO governance and DAO structure as a business framework, but how do you then implement that with tangible kind of in real life delivery? And there was so much great stuff from the conversations that were happening on Sunday. And again, I wasn't able to be speaking, and so I listened. I took a lot of notes, and there's and what I always find is that people are coming from their certain lane and with a certain objective, and that's completely understandable, right? Because we're early stage, and everyone's trying to kind of wrestle with the things that they know, and how do you make that be a viable solution for everyone. And with DAOs, there's kind of the whole LearnFi and education space, and then there's also content and consumption. But then in terms of AEC, there's actually like design and delivery. And so when we talk about kind of the hypergranularity stuff and golden thread, and I don't know if you saw the kind of chat from last week, but we're talking about when you talk about cybernetics and cohesion and all of that stuff, we talk about as a Web 2 solution, compliance as a service and golden thread as a service. And for a long time, I've called it construction cybernetics. And when we speak on Monday, I'm going to show you some diagrams that I've drawn up, which show kind of almost blocks in phases with the different stakeholders that are required in those different moments of a job, and how information needs to be provided to those people at a time that they're allowed to kind of engage with. And then once that's kind of closed, that smart contract moves down the line. But then that's just one piece of it, right? That's just the kind of IRL delivery, and that's design delivery. And there's, that involves building models, that involves procurement of models, that involves delivery of models, and that involves kind of people building that tangible thing into a building kind of at the end of the kind of line of process. But then there's really interesting things. Like one of the things that I was so interested by with the NFT stuff that you're doing around skills NFTs, where you are trying to understand who's an engineer, who's a techie, who's an architect, who can provide information at those different stages, and why would they need to be providing information at those different stages, and how do they be rewarded through the DAO in a weighted way, so that and so with LearnFi, if we think about like hypergranularity, then there's something that we've been kind of trying to brainstorm for a while around geometry as a service. How do you reduce kind of these parts into their most granular abstract concepts? And so if we think about geometry as a service, which is kind of providing stuff into a library, then there was something around kind of authorship and ownership of authorship. And all of those things is like, it feels like there's a lot of conversations that are happening that need to be unbundled independently. So forgive me if I'm splurging. It's one of those. It's one of those. My brain kind of tries to bounce around, but to hold it loosely and go slowly is sometimes my struggle, because I'm very passionate around all of it, and it's something that does need very much kind of sharp focus with a lens on each specific point. And so rather than ramble, I maybe if I've made a little bit of sense to there, then I'll pass it back to you and see.
I got exactly where you're coming from, and I didn't see the call last week on in detail, but I have put it to kind of take notes and get ready for our call on Monday. Do send me an invite so we can kind of block the time, and I have time next week, maybe 1 or 2 hours or so. And from that point of view, we can discuss exactly how we can find all of the common ground where we could connect. I think there are a lot of also prototypes taking place in research that might need a little bit more of a coordination, right? So a lot of researchers are looking at pockets of excellence in what we're trying to do, and it's very difficult to kind of have a really overall vision about how this might affect the whole industry. But
I think you're right, and it's something that I'm definitely keen to have a conversation with as well. And it's one of those where I don't think Web 2 has nailed all of the solutions. So then it's difficult to then try to then wrap them and deliver them as a Web3 proposition. But it's if we can understand what are the Achilles heels or some of the major issues around why there hasn't been more kind of widespread adoption of digital architecture and delivery cohesively in Web 2, because we always talk about fragmented industries, and I know that you guys see all of those issues, but it's so as I say, the two kind of things that we really try to think about with the cybernetics and cohesion stuff is, and you've seen one of Dara's models, I think, when we and so that hypergranularity approach, they've been used on a number of jobs over the last 5 years, where coordinated information is created and then used 3D to 3D to site, and you're able to avoid clash detection, and you improve efficiency, you improve cost, you improve lack of waste, and all of those things, which is really great, and some of the things that we're trying to tackle here, but perhaps not in a way where, because of some of the incumbents that are much larger CDEs that exist for architects and then for construction sites, and people have different CDEs and they want a CDE for a different purpose. And it's like, if you're actually doing Golden Thread as a service and you understand cohesion and cybernetics, then that has to be one streamlined solution. Like the Golden Thread is that one true copy that everyone has, that then updates and files itself smartly, so that as the project moves forward, everyone's constantly up to date with the latest copy of whatever the information that has been agreed upon and stored, so that, you know, you're not wasting time in having headaches from, oh, this person said that person said this. And
absolutely. It's I think we're singing from the same hymn state in the end, and I think you'll find that it's not so much the technical issues that need to be resolved, but probably in construction the cultural issues. As you said, you know, people have a preferred CDE, and then they don't want to change, even though you know, you can really store them technical solutions that are much better, right? But they will go like, yeah, this is the platform I have, and I won't invest in trying to change. Same thing for proprietary software, right? A lot of practices have invested a lot of skills onto them, so it's very difficult to, you know, price
unbundle it all. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I don't know who, I forget who raised the point on Sunday, but talking about somebody said that they didn't know that there was corruption in construction or something like that. And then, you know, there's a lot of things that are going to be hurdles and obstacles that need to be overcome when you're trying to implement a very transparent framework. And I suppose there's sensitivity that comes with how you actually deal with all of those variables that are sometimes difficult for you to control, but in a way that if you're then going to put it all on a blockchain, how does everyone comply with such frameworks?
Absolutely. Right. I think that's enough of a teaser for our private meeting on Monday. So let's do that. Do send me an email.
Cool. No, I will do it in the morning.
Yeah. Perfect. So we don't have a lot of other participants at the moment, so I'll just close the community call. Thanks for joining, Liam and Spree, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. I'll catch you again.
Thank you.